Shoma, what is your sense of what would be the key takeaway? What, if you were to talk about one or two key points, what would that be?
Yeah, thank you. See, in terms of, I will just put down four bullet points which actually sums up the budget in terms of numbers. First is, if you look into the capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP, that is now at 17-year high. If you look into revenue deficit as a percentage of fiscal deficit, that is now at a 14-year low. As you know, that fiscal deficit could have a revenue deficit, capital expenditure component. It is now at 14-year low. If you look into the subsidy component, during the pandemic, it had touched 3.6%. We have now brought it down to 1.3%. And petroleum subsidy today is the lowest since FY 2004. It's actually a 19-year low. And a large part of that incremental money actually is going to build up the PLI scheme, which is 1% of GDP. And finally, the most important thing, which in economic parlance we call is a tax buoyancy. That means tax buoyancy, if you look into the history from 1970 onwards, till date, 2020 till 2023, the tax buoyancy was at record high of 1.5. India was the only country which had witnessed an increase in tax revenue during the pandemic. And this year, the tax revenue buoyancy numbers are actually pegged conservatively at 1. So, overall, the budget actually has a clear orientation of moving towards an era of increased capital expenditure, creation of more assets, and trying to move away from the over-reliance of revenue expenditure and subsidy payments. So I think that is the grasp.
Abhik, the question to ask then is, as Shoma said, that it's clearly a big push and continuingly so over the last couple of years on capital expenditure, government capital expenditure. Now, the question some sections may be asking is that, is there enough absorptive capacity in the economy in terms of whether this 10 lakh crore can be actually implemented in time?
Well, actually, that was exactly the point I was going to raise, because we just heard a minister whose ministry has been absolutely fabulous in absorbing funds allocated. But I'm not too sure. I mean, I think the efficiency of absorption has improved across ministries. But that remains a question. You can allocate a lot of funds.
Yes.
But both at the central and the state level, and particularly with the state level, with the myriad sort of uncertainties that states face, absorption might be an issue. So that is something one can't just turn a blind eye to. And railway and roads is not really a representative sector.
That's right.
For that matter. And I think roads has been conflated with infrastructure so much that India's infrastructure story has really been a road story. So I just hope with the allocations and the push that the government is providing towards reviving investments in infrastructure and bringing about a revival in what we sort of call the capex cycle, when the private sector is unlikely to participate too much because of the uncertainties related to the global slowdown and so forth. I just hope that the absorption capacity improves. One encouraging sign is the fact that I think after sitting on their haunches for a period, the states have actually started spending over the last 4 or 5 months on investment projects. And this takes me back to what TCA was saying, is that I think there's a conscious effort by this government to change sort of the political economy narrative, away from this time-tested form. Well, I don't know whether it's sort of passed the test, but this formula of throwing money at the electorate before the elections, to just saying that, look, I mean, this is a very irresponsible thing to do. So the move towards getting away from reveries and getting to sort of hard economics.
And that has been a constant refrain from the government, that you should move away from that.
Yes. And so I think, given the absence of that, I think states would have the incentive to use economic performance as a vote catcher. I just hope that sort of pans out.